Staying in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, as of course we look at the aftermath of the floods. The weather coverage there has been, of course, severely impacting residents in parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Some are picking up their pieces following the recent heavy rains. Meanwhile, some Durban families are calling for assistance in reburying loved ones after heavy rains swept away graves. For more insight on this, joined now by Muzi Hlengwa, speaking on behalf of the funeral industries of South Africa, is the spokesperson there. Hlengwa, good to have you, and thank you very, very much for your time. One would have, of course, expected the floods to displace families who are living, but it seems even those who have passed on are being displaced by these floods. How bad is the situation?
Good afternoon to you and the viewers at home. The situation is very bad, particularly in eThekwini, where we see the overturning of graves and the body being scattered outside the grave. They supposed, as opposed to what they're supposed to be. We would like to first pass or send our heartfelt condolences to the families, those that have lost their loved ones through these floods, and those that have to rebury the bodies that they've buried. And we all want to have a closure. When one passes on after the burial, we want to believe that we have closed the chapter. Now, when you have to reopen the chapter and go back to the pain that we have felt back then when you were burying them for the first time, it's something that nobody would like to go through. And as the funeral undertakers, particularly in KZN, we are always available to assist. Let no family who has been affected by these floods say we are without monies to bury. Yes, we are in business, but as undertakers in South Africa, we always encourage, as black undertakers in particular, we always encourage undertakers to assist where they could without expecting any form of pay. So we are extending our hand to the members of the communities that have been affected by these floods.
Yeah, and we appreciate that hand that you're sticking out. As far as the technicalities, Hlengwa, of the processes that you follow as undertakers, I mean, we know, for example, when one passes on in a hospital or at home, there are processes that one follows, a forensic and all the medical processes and getting the certificates and so on and so forth. In a case where a grave has been washed away, what do families need to do?
Look, it's different. It's more or less like an exhumation of the body, because the funeral has occurred and the papers has been done already. So you can't go back and register again. So those are treated as a form of exhumation, but a forced one this time, where you don't even have time to go and apply for papers in court. Unfortunately, those bodies have to go back to the hands of the government in the forensics mortuaries before they come back to us for the purposes of reburial. I'm confident that the officials, the government officials, will do whatever necessary to speed up the process. I want to praise the eThekwini Metro for what they've done with such a case, whereby they were able to collect the bodies and deal with all forms of legal stuff, ensuring that these bodies are now reburied at speed. But what I'm really concerned with is that every time when having these types of floods, we will have graves overturning, particularly because we no longer have a 6 feet under the ground. We are now working from, I mean to say, we're no longer having 12 feet. We're now working from 6 feet, and we have to go back and rebury from that 6 feet. See, if it was 12 feet and you rebury, you will have 6 feet. Now, if it's 6 feet and you have to rebury, you will go for 4 feet, which is very shallow and easy to be washed away in the event of floods. So we are encouraging the government to take the issue of the lack of cemeteries very seriously, because if you are in Durban, particularly when you are coming from Umlazi Township, you have no place to bury unless you have 40,000 rand to buy a new grave in Elalagahle. And we all know that our people will not afford a 40,000 rand grave.
So the question is availability of graves here, at least the matter that you're dealing with, because one of the families would have said, look, it's the second time that we're doing this, and we would have put a request to say, put our loved ones in a more safer place or relocate them as opposed to a safer area. Are there safer areas where these bodies can be relocated to?
There's none. There's nothing whatsoever. I was a little boy when they were starting to bury at Umlazi, the Mobeni Heights, the Red Hills, and all these cemeteries. Now I'm an old man with children who've got children of their own, but we are still utilizing those cemeteries, whereas we have space that is lying and doing nothing, and the owners have came forth to eThekwini Metro saying we want to sell you these spaces so that you can open the new cemeteries. But the will from eThekwini Metro to have new cemeteries available, it's zero. They do not care about the funeral. They only know a funeral when it's time to bury someone of a high caliber, and then they start wanting to find a place where they can put them. For example, suppose a minister or someone who's got a name passes on, they've got a secure place in Chesterville where they call it the Heroes Ark. When you go to that place, that one is secured. Nothing will ever happen, because we've never had a case whereby those types of cemeteries overturn. But when it's come to the ordinary people of KZN, Tegwini in particular, nobody cares. We go back to the same cemetery. Some of them, they are illegal cemeteries whereby communities see a place, a space, and then they go and they start burying people. What we are calling for is a collaborated effort between the undertakers, the government, and the communities, because the undertakers, they themselves sometimes become a part of the problem, because when they've got customers who are saying, I want a grave, if you can find a grave, you'll get the job from me, then they will go and do whatever in order to secure that job and in order to make money. And when you come to a government official and you say to them at the graveyard, please assist me, do whatever, then they will do whatever, and the whatever is a shallow grave that will be washed away in the time of the heavy rains. That's why, as the Undertakers of South Africa, we have started to implement or to introduce awards which will be held in Durban ICC on the 6th of April to encourage people to operate ethically, to give services that are dignified to families, to respect the deceased and respect the families. Particularly, they must respect the laws that governs the funeral industry.
Hlengwa, you've extended a hand to help particularly those families who would want to get your assistance from yourself as the Undertaker organized body. How do they reach out to you?
Speaking for me in particular, they can get me from 084-2848-400. As BJ Funeral Directors, we are here to assist. It's never always about money, but it's about the passion and the love of the families that we are servicing.
We appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on Muzi Hlengwa, speaking on behalf of the funeral industries of South Africa.